Now we're going to take a deep dive into actions. And remember that actions are elements within an automation that can make something happen to your contacts. For example, you might send them an email, update a field in their record, or even send a webhook to another system with their information inside. Action steps are the work that actually gets done by your automation. An action happens immediately when a contact arrives at that element, and then the contact moves on to the next element. That is, unless the action is add to campaign, or there's a wait that slows the contact moving down a path. There are more than a dozen different actions that you can automate with Ontraport. Each action does something a little different and has its own settings. I'm going to start with an easy one, which is sending a contact an email or an SMS. To do that, click the plus and add an email or SMS action. You'll see the settings palette for this action open up on the left. Select the message you want to send from the drop-down in the element settings. This is the same for email and SMS. If you are sending a text, make sure to remember to select the number that you want to send from. And to learn more about how to get a number, pop over to our video on SMS messaging available in the marketing course. Another very popular action is to update contacts. Now, this will change the value of a field inside of a contact's record. Select the field you want to update, then choose what you want to change it to. For example, after someone has achieved a purchasing goal, you can update something like a sales funnel status field from lead to client by adding an update contact element beneath the goal. The change tags action is used to add or remove tags from a contact. Just click here to add or remove the tags that you'd like to change. If you're a veterinarian, maybe you'd add a dog owner tag to someone who already had a cat owner tag, for example. Assign a task will create a task for yourself or a team member to do something about a contact. For example, you could create a hot lead task that would automatically be assigned to someone on your sales team whenever a lead achieves something like a high lead score. Or maybe the task gets created when a lead visits your site for the first time in a while. Tasks can be pretty sweet for internal processes as well. Maybe you want to assign a task to your team to onboard new customers. So, after someone pays, your team member could be alerted to make a call and get them set up. You can get more ideas about tasks in the Ontraport for Sales course. Okay, moving on to the next set of actions. Notify with email and notify with SMS. These actions will send a message to someone, which is usually a team member of your own team who has access to your Ontraport account. You can also notify someone outside of your organization as well. You might set this up when you want to alert your team about something, but you don't necessarily need them to complete a task right away. For example, you could be alerted each time a new appointment is booked or each time you make a new sale, just for the feels. Add or remove contacts from automations is exactly what it sounds like. You can add contacts or remove them from automations. To do this, select the automations you want to add or remove contacts from using the dropdown. When you add them to another automation, they'll start at the default trigger at the top left inside of that new automation. Contacts added to a new automation will be paused on the old automation until they exit that new one. This action type can be really good for housekeeping contacts their way into a new automation. So for example, if this is a new customer automation triggered by a purchase, you can ensure that they're first removed from all the lead automations before interacting with them as a new customer. But if you'd rather that the contact keeps moving forward on this automation as well, you can do that with a fork, but we're going to talk about that more in the video on filters. The pause and unpause automations action lets you pause or unpause a contact's flow through an automation. For example, you may have a new promotion that you want to run, but you don't necessarily want the leads on your long-term lead follow-up to get bombarded with too many emails at once. Not a problem. You can pause those other automations while you send this promotion and then unpause them at the end. That was incredibly thoughtful. One little note about this one. If contacts are on a wait when you pause them, their clock stops, and it won't start again until they're unpaused. So if they're 2 days into a 4-day wait and you pause them for a week, the automation will still wait that remaining 2 days once the contact is unpaused before moving on. Okay, now let's talk about the add or remove membership access actions. If you have a membership site, you'd use an action to add, remove, or suspend a contact's access to that site. You'd give them access after a purchase, or suspend access after a card decline, for example. To do this, select the site and select the status. You'll learn a lot more about membership access and statuses in the Ontraport for Memberships course. Next, you can add or remove contacts from a fulfillment list. And a fulfillment list is simply a list of contacts who get aggregated and then, according to the settings that you've configured, sent off to some email address as a CSV file on some date. Usually this is to notify someone that an action needs to be taken for these contacts that's outside the scope of what Ontraport can do for you automatically. So for example, if you want to send new clients a welcome gift, like a box of gourmet donuts, you could send yourself a notification each time you get a sale, but really you don't want to stop what you're doing and go get donuts every time somebody buys something. And you don't want a bunch of random emails to gather up when it is time to buy those donuts, because you might miss someone. Instead, you can use a fulfillment list to make sure all the new purchases get onto that list and have the system send you or your assistant that list once a week or so, all ready to go. Setting this up is simple. Select the list from the dropdown that you want to add or remove from, and keep in mind that you will need to set up the fulfillment list separately, of course. Ontraport also has several actions that manage transactions and payments. The first is cancel an open order of an existing subscription product. This will cancel any open orders that contain the product that you've selected. So for example, if you're building a cancellation automation, you can remove someone's open order and remove their access from your product, such as a membership site. Recharge transactions and collections will attempt to recharge any subscription or payment plan transactions that had previously failed. So, if you're building a declined card automation, you can attempt to recharge their card every so often, or whenever somebody updates their card. You can get more information on this in the Ontraport for Payments course. Add a product to a contact's purchase history is an action used to log a purchase in Ontraport without charging a card. For example, maybe you made the sale offline, in another system, or you just simply gifted someone a product. But you still want all those applicable automations to fire. In settings, you would simply select the product from the dropdown like this. You can also add a contact to a lead router. And you can learn a lot more about lead routers in the Ontraport for Sales course. In settings, select the lead router from the dropdown. This is a great first action for new lead automations, which could then be followed up with an email appearing to come from that newly assigned rep. Next, there are advanced elements. These two WordPress elements give and remove membership access for people who use PilotPress to create a membership site on WordPress. But you're more likely to be using Ontraport pages for membership, so these won't necessarily apply to you. But in case you do want to do this, we have a whole lesson where we're going to talk all about PilotPress. Lastly are webhooks, which are a way of sending data from Ontraport to a third-party app, script, or website. Now, you may want to send the data to other systems automatically. For example, sending marketing event data over to Google or Facebook is a really good idea if you are advertising on those platforms. So, this element sends the data that you choose to a destination of your choice. The settings for this element are pretty important and really are meant for more engineering types. And if you don't already know what this stuff is, you may want to just skip it altogether for now. But if you do know what this stuff is, then this should all be pretty self-explanatory. You just select the URL where you want to send the data, the method you want to use, and any header information that you'd like us to send along, and then the actual data itself. Typically, the data you send is going to contain a bunch of merge fields, which you can add by clicking here. And that's it for all the actions inside of Ontraport's automation editor. Thanks for sticking with me. That was pretty deep in the weeds, but now you're ready to start building automated funnels for your customers, leads, and others. In future videos, we're going to deep dive into goals, which will allow you to create relevant and personalized experiences.